Meeting is called to order. Minutes, Resolution 24-122, to accept the minutes of June 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Amen.
Thank you. Workshop, policy review, disposal of county property.
So in your packets, actually there should be a new version. I had some help editing this the other day. So this is our current disposal of county property policy. And it didn't have any reference to the sheriff's office. And so, based on conversations with Sheriff Lancaster, I thought that it would be prudent to update this policy to include a segment that talks about how the sheriff's office has their own policies about disposing things. Because obviously there are things that the sheriff's office collects as property that really shouldn't be disposed the same way of extra filing cabinets or that sort of thing. So with a little help from Chairman Cezak, we crafted the language that's in yellow under the number 2 item policy that simply says the sheriff's office will be responsible for recording, reporting to the commissioners, and acting and enforcing its own policies regarding disposal of seized property, to include but not limited to weapons, illegal substances, and other related paraphernalia. So I drafted that and just wanted to bring it before you to see if that seemed to be a reasonable addition to the policy.
Any discussion?
Well, is it always just seized property? Like, do people sometimes turn over voluntarily? Should we take that word out of there? Seized? I mean, sometimes people turn over their son-in-law's gun collection. So, I don't know, it just happens once in a while. I don't know whether.
You could just say property. Right, that's a good point.
I don't make it very
Well, hey,
All right?
That change could include a house, owned property.
We don't know if the sheriff's office can seize a house.
I don't, that actually doesn't affect it, that's what we were questioning, because that would eventually, if that was able to be done, come back to the county, yes, the county's property.
Only in the UT, because the town will trump all of that if they don't get their taxes paid.
Yeah.
So. And I don't even know in the UT if that's a process.
I don't know if leaving seized in there is a problem, maybe seized in other acquired property or something like that, just to include something outside of seized. Might be good.
Yeah, that's expanding on that, it's better, yeah.
Is it, I don't have my rearview mirror on, is that the sheriff?
That is the sheriff.
Yeah, so be in your best behavior.
It's not well. So the question, Sheriff, is regarding this language that we're proposing to add into the disposal of surplus property, and whether or not it should include the word seized property or just property or seized and other property, just kind of getting some ideas of what the sheriff's office may have to dispose of.
So we get property in multiple ways. It's a tragic death, report of a crime, people find stuff all the time.
Would acquired cover that?
Yeah.
General term?
Other required property.
Right, yeah.
Close enough.
We don't always, we come in possession, not always by seizing.
Okay.
Though that is one of the ways.
Yeah.
When it comes to getting down to step C, where it's employees, shouldn't that be like a seal good bid or something like that? Because you can't single out separate employees to give things to.
So now you're talking about the county's policy in general, not the sheriff's.
Right.
The sheriff has.
Right, the
policy.
sheriff, the majority of his stuff has to be sold anyways.
So you're saying, while it's on the table, let's look at the whole policy?
That's a workshop we can work with.
You're just looking at the sheriff's?
No, I mean, but the sheriff has to give me my copy back, that's it.
No, it says disposal of equipment and property. The first goes to county and other county departments. then it goes to towns, then it goes to the employees. And usually they handle it through the employees, we have like a sealed bid process. So instead of, because chances are you have multiple employees that would want this tank.
So the way we do it now, correct me if I'm wrong, is if it gets to the employee part, we basically take a picture of it, like old windows that have been sitting up by the comm center or the extension office for a year or so, that we were just gonna take to the dump. But somebody can use them in their camp and stuff like that. So if nobody else wanted them, we take a picture of them, send an email out countywide, and they'd come get them. We're not selling them, they're just coming and taking them. So I don't think there's a sealed bid process if we get that far.
No, I guess what I'm saying is, why don't you have 3 people that want those windows? How do you select which person gets those windows?
I'm always a believer the first come, first served, but
I think we leave that to the discretion of the county administrator to fairly and reasonably dispose of property without favoritism.
I will say it hasn't,
I don't think it's a big issue.
it hasn't happened often,
When does it happen?
but at the same time, I haven't heard anybody say, man, I really wanted those windows, and you let so-and-so get them. So we haven't run into that situation yet.
I should say that I got when they replaced the probate windows in 1980, I got them all for $6 a piece. And they're in my house right
And
now.
it was like a sealed bid process.
No sealed bid there.
Used in 1980 and
You did the job. No, I thought about it.
See, now your house is a historic, can't change it.
You may be stuck now.
All right, we're good with the
Fabulous.
property disposal policy? Any other concerns or questions regarding that? Seeing none, employee handbook.
So prior to the meeting, I asked if you had a copy of this draft. So what we have done, Patrick and Leanne and I have reviewed this, made some edits and changes. This is not enacted, so we're still operating under the current employee handbook. But I took the liberty of changing the format a little bit and using an article system, and try to pull in a lot of policies that were in various different places so that they kind of follow a better flow. What my intent is over the next couple of months, is to just bring up sections for the commissioners to review. But now that you have the whole book, you can certainly review and shoot back any questions or look for typos or maybe things that need to be reworded. So at the front of the current handbook, we have the ethics for the county. So I kept that as Article 1. What I did was I included the language that's in the current handbook, and then I incorporated some other language that refers to state standards. And I tried to do that throughout the book, because what's helpful for me as a new administrator coming on is to know, where did this policy come from? And is there a state statute that requires that policy? Especially when you're dealing with elected officials and so forth. So I tried to incorporate that wherever I could, because ideally a handbook is for the next administrator and the next set of commissioners, so that somebody has a roadmap further down the road. So that's the first article, is the Code of Ethics, and I'll just refer to the first and second. The second article is your welcome and introduction. And as you'll see there, it's kind of an explanation, what the offices are, and you'll see in the last section there about elected officials, 2.6. Again, I tried to incorporate the titles, the statutory systems that impact all of the different elected officials. So unless you have questions specific, I just wanted to use this time as an introduction and get it in your hands so that you can commit it to memory over the next couple of weeks. That's it.
If we were to compare this to the existing,
To the what?
to the existing,
Yeah.
would we notice a lot of similarity, or is this a total redo, or is?
No, I think you notice a lot of similarity. What I've incorporated, and I've tried to keep a running list over the last year, whenever the commissioners were concerned about exit interviews, for example, I tried to expand the language on that. If they were concerned about the process and the statutory authority about probationary employees, I tried to include that in there. So anything that the commissioners have talked about over the last year, I've tried to incorporate it. And with the help of Leanne and Patrick, anything that I did copy and paste that didn't make sense, or if it was something that was old and we don't do it that way, then we tried to make those edits as well. So it's not a complete redo. You'll find a lot of similarities, but you'll find things in different places. Because some of the ones that we've added over the years just get tagged on to the end. And now, if we're dealing with leaves of absence, there's a whole article on leaves of absence. So we tried to pull that together.
With our union contracts, is there a reference in the union contracts to the handbook and to give the employee handbook any type of utility to the union contracts?
I think you'll find some language in there. Of course, there's the language that says that this handbook is not a contract, but also it's used as a guide for all employees. But if an employee is part of a collective bargaining agreement, that supersedes the handbook.
But I think there's more reference in there to the CBAs than there is in the CBA.
To the handbook.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Discuss language for November ballot question.
So this should be in your packets as well. This is a carryover from the last meeting. There's actually, I looked back at the minutes, it was actually a year ago, at the second June meeting, that you decided to put a ballot question about changing the registry of deeds from elected to appointed. So we're back here again, as discussed at the last meeting. So I put 3 versions of proposed language before you. You can do whatever you'd like with that. So the first one is, shall the elected Somerset Register of Deeds position be permanently transferred to a professional Register of Deeds position appointed by the Board of Commissioners? Or, shall the Somerset Register of Deeds position be changed from elected position to a position appointed by the Board of Commissioners? Or, shall the elected Somerset Register of Deeds positions be transferred to a Register of Deeds position appointed by the Board of Commissioners? So, what do you want?
It seems to me that we're trying to come up with language that doesn't scare off the voter or somehow trigger an immediate negative response. So, I don't think we're transferring anything, so just in terms of language, it doesn't make sense to me to use that word. I think the second one is brief and to the point. Was that what was on the old ballot?
So the old ballot is above that, all in italics. Shall the position be abolished and replaced with, and that maybe threw people into thinking you're abolishing their rights. So, I'm just speculating.
You're saying that same thing in the first one that you wrote there, but you're just using permanently transfer.
Yep.
I don't think we're transferring anything. I don't like that word.
So as we discussed last time, the language that you put on the ballot has to be in the same substance of what's in the charter. But at the same time, it also has to communicate something simply to the voter. No matter how you word it, the voter's going to understand, oh,
I'd be inclined to move one of the second two there, or similarities, because I think the permanently transferred is another very A couple of words.
Permanent transfer, sounds like some kind of irrevocable surgical procedure.
That's actually not honest, because none of it's permanent. Because if you did it again, in another way, you know, there's always that opportunity to change, so permanent is just not.
And by charter, the residents of Somerset County could petition the commissioners to change it back.
Then number 2 is actually the easiest to read and understand.
I like number 2.
So coming up later in the meeting on Resolution 133, there's a resolution to submit the following question to voters. So if you're in agreement with number 2, that's the one that will go in the minutes.
Okay. I might work on some tweaking. All set there? And then,
I think number 2, I think if we could add, we could, you know, craft that up a little bit better too, to make it a little bit more clear.
so I read it more clearly.
How much time do we have to work on that? On the actual language of that, or is it, we need to get it taken care of immediately to hit a deadline?
So this was the same time last year that you started this process, and you used the language directly from the charter. I would say you probably don't have a whole lot of time.
No.
That's why I put a resolution on this today.
Oh.
But if you want to scratch that resolution and push it off to the 2 weeks, because ballots have to be ready at least 30 days before, so that's gets you early October, so really by the end of September. Then we got to get it to the Secretary of State's office, and they've got to do their checks on it. So that's the whole month of August.
So the only thing I was thinking, and this isn't exactly right, but so shall the Somerset Register of Deeds position be changed from an elected position to a position appointed in a normal hiring something to that, just sort of lends the idea that there's going to be, it's a normal hiring process where there's going to be, you know, you can be putting out to the public, you know, looking for people that are looking for that job. You're going to go through the, you know, the normal hiring process of.
Right.
Could we say competitive hiring process or something like that to suggest that, you know, it's not some back.
Because the way it reads, I mean, it really reads like old-time cronyism.
Yeah.
You're gonna appoint your brother, sister's uncle, cousin to this position because it's such an amazing position, right? So, I don't know, whether it makes a difference one way or the other. Just a,
That's good thought, I like your thought. And now if you can find the right wording for it, that'd be good too.
traditional hiring process or something to that effect.
Now, is it standard? Standard hiring practice?
My only concern is now you're adding to the language that's in the charter. And are you changing the substance of what's in the charter? Because the charter makes it, the whole section that this is in is called change from elected to appointed.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand the intent of what you're trying to do. You still have to be faithful to the charter. I'd be concerned about using language like normal or standard.
But the gist of it is that it's appointed, and I think it's okay to use additional words to describe that process as a normal, efficient, and open, whatever. I don't think we're changing the substance of anything.
Right, because the actual process of the appointed position is exactly what we're talking about. It's just we're not saying it in so many words.
And if there's somebody that's gonna come out of the woodwork that says, I want to run for this position, and I'm going to sue the county because I think this ballot measure is defective because they use the word normal in it, I don't think think that's gonna get very far. And I doubt it would ever happen in the first place, since nobody wants to run for the position in the foreseeable future.
Exactly.
Another piece of that that might have wording in there similar to that is that when we appointed by the county commissioners, that also appointed by the final class doesn't resonate well with some folks in our districts either, because when we did this last time, that's the thing I got was like, it should be elected, be the people should. And so something was in there to kind of, so shall the Somerset Register of Deeds position be changed from the elected position to the position appointed by the Board of Commissioners to be, then you're gonna add that clause, which then it would affect what's in the chart.
Difficult part is it's gotta be super short.
I don't think we have issues with number 2 or 3, I think either one of them would be okay. I just didn't like the permanently transferring the person.
Yeah. And, 25 years from now, we're still discussing this.
Because it didn't pass and it doesn't matter.
Yes, I think we should keep trying, for sure. It's been uphill battle.
How about this? Shall the Somerset Registry of Deeds position be changed from an elected position to a position selected through a competitive hiring process and appointed by the Board of Commissioners?
That helps.
I don't think you can strike the appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
Right,
That's state statute.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
How about a process administered by the administrator? Is that too wordy? Yeah, I like that. Jot that down.
Okay.
The competitive hiring process.
No matter how you do it, you're gonna have to do this. You can't, you're not keeping that right away.
That's gonna tell the people out here that we're not just picking somebody, but we're gonna
Yeah,
do the process, do it right.
I forget her name. Is her,
Candy?
is she taking up the first or
No. No, I think she's going to declare write-in. Yeah, be a declared write-in. So, are we happy with that final language?
We'll find out when we get to Resolution 134.
Oh, there you go, all right. Are we ready for matching grant program?
Yeah.
All right.
So I want just to take a few minutes while all the commissioners are here to kind of reflect back on the first 2 rounds that we've gone through and see, are we at a point where we want to make some changes? Do we want to continue with this? So that's my first question. Are you in agreement to continue with a matching grant program through community benefit funds?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think it's worked out pretty well. I like it. It seems to be an effective way of distributing this money.
Okay. So my next thought was, how are we as a commission looking at applications that come from for-profit businesses? Is that something that's a definite no from you? Is it a case-by-case thing? I just want to know how to communicate to the applicants.
I mean, that's a case-by-case thing, because you gotta really look at the situation and how well prepared those individuals are in that business of whatever they're gonna do to assure that there's gonna be a proper situation there, and it's not gonna be risk. That's just it.
Could there be, just throwing out an idea, if it was we let people know that if it's a for-profit business, you're gonna go through you're gonna have a different application form maybe that would explain, you have to go the extra mile to convince us of why this is a good idea. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But, I wouldn't rule it out entirely. And people can always try and end run. mean, the money's there, and we're all here, and if somebody had a really good idea that nobody had ever thought of, that really needed help, was,
there a way that if we put it in here, that would be some sort of, instead of a 50-50, you got 75-25, or 75-25, or some way that would kind of alleviate, some of the risk of everything.
but maybe what we're saying is just no. That makes it easy. This program is not for, we got plenty of nonprofits and governmental agencies that have all sorts of needs, and we can just say, this program is for that.
I would say under the current business climate, we probably have more for-profits that are needy than nonprofits, honestly. I would not rule them out. I might shrink the exact criteria that they could apply for, not that I'm trying to impose my thoughts on everybody else, but, there are certain things that I feel that this, actually, I think you had some here listed, whether it's public safety, whether it's, I wouldn't include property tax reduction, that's for sure. Health, wellness, there might be a slightly narrower criteria maybe.
So here's what other municipalities and grants have done, is they've limited for-profit businesses to facade improvements. In other words, if you're going to do something to improve the look of your property, the look of your building, if you're going to buy something like that, that seems to have a benefit to the public, because old storefronts get fixed up and that sort of thing. That's been very popular in Skowhegan. Madison did similar ones. And so that's a way of kind of tailoring these specifically to businesses for facade improvements. But it sounds like, at the very least, it might be worth looking at a separate application for a for-profit.
A separate application, I like the facade idea. I don't want to eliminate the for-profit businesses. I think that one thing it does, it enhances the profitability of the businesses, which means that those towns will see a property tax gain.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
So now, Commissioner Stetkus referred to this list: property tax reduction, economic community development, resources, tourism, so on and so forth. That list comes from the state statute, from the Wind Towers Community Benefit Program. So that's the intent of the community benefit, that it benefits Somerset County in these categories. And for the most part,
You don't specify for or non-profit.
that's correct. Right. So that I kind of used as my guide here. So what I was actually thinking about, and I'm going to, if the commissioners are okay with this, and we can do this either way, we can either do it when Christian gives his report, or we can have Christian talk about this now, because there are other funds outside of community benefit that the county will be able to utilize in the coming years. You will have some small amount of opioid settlement money that will continue to come into the county. Currently, we're using it for MAT, but if something changes in that world, that may be something that other nonprofits can apply for. We have monies that Christian's going to talk about that will come from the corridor, which dates well beyond my time here, back to a previous commission that negotiated these terms. So what I was actually toying with, and I'll be glad to present this if you'd like, is try to create a system where we're actually doing several different sets of grant opportunities for municipalities only, that would cover your public safety issues, but also maybe some sort of cost reduction to the burden of the taxpayer. So you have municipalities only, you have for-profits only, and then you would have the nonprofits in the conservation game, whether it be land conservation, natural resources, historical resources. And I just got this from the 25 applications that we've gotten the last year. A lot of historical societies, a lot of water associations, a lot of people that were doing the conservation. And then, of course, you have tourism. And that's where a lot of our ATV and snowmobile clubs filter into that. So that's just what I'm thinking about, maybe categorizing the application process. Any thoughts on that?
I say keep thinking. I mean, I think that's good, but we're just batting around ideas. I like that idea.
So are you, as a board, okay to entertain information from Christian at this time, or do you want to wait till he gives his report?
We can listen to him right now.
Good afternoon. But before we, can I just, there's one, I don't know about the process of our program.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought to mention that too. What's the feelings of the board, sorry, Christian, what's the feelings of the board in regard to the current review process? We have a committee, and that committee meets and reviews the applications, they make recommendations, then we walk through that as a board. What are your thoughts on that? Need to change?
Well, I think we've kind of saw a wrinkle with one of the proposals here, resolution for the defibrillator, where they want some money from TIF and then some money from the Community Benefit Fund, and there was never any application to the Community Benefit Fund for that, but that recommendation actually came from the TIF committee, not from the Community Benefit Committee. So there was a little miscommunication, or whatever you want to call it, that occurred there that's kind of thrown me a little bit off balance of how do I want to deal with that situation. That's Resolution 24-137.
So, Dave and I spoke about this when he sent out the minutes from the TIF committee meeting, and you can certainly speak to this, Dave, but I think that the long and short of it was, this is based on a similar support for fire protection services in that area.
Yeah, we are supporters. We are one of the equal funders for the West Forks Fire and Rescue Department. It's split three ways. The operating funds split three ways, with a third for the county communities around West Forks. West Forks itself, and we're to represent them, and the Forks Plantation. So everyone pays in an operating fund every year towards that. Whatever money isn't spent, because the fire department rescues are all volunteers, they do not draw any kind of pay. So the money goes and they use it for equipment and whatnot, and what isn't spent in operations is then put aside into a separate account. So they kind of drew the separate account down to zero, which is something that should not have happened, but was okay kind of offhand without a thorough review. So what we're looking at now is to get that fund back to where it should have been, because the equipment is good equipment. Everyone agrees it's good equipment. It's what the Upper Kennebec Valley Ambulance Service uses. But should a small fire department have purchased it, that's a little bit in question. They do have people trained on it. They're training more people, which is a good thing. But it really drained all the funds out of the fire department. And if they have anything go wrong with their major equipment, water pump goes, or one of their equipment trucks requires a lot of maintenance, that fund that would have paid for that is no longer there. So part of this is just looking out for the three entities involved. And why we funded it with a third TIF and 2/3 from community benefit matches what we've done in the past, because they have a new rescue truck up there, used, but new to them. And that's how we've always funded in the past. When you're involved with West Forks Fire, because it's 2/3 through two separate plantations and a third from the county, that's where we've always funded the TIF. We take a third from TIF representing the UTs, and 2/3 representing Green Benefit, because that's the Forks Plantation and West Forks Plantation, which aren't allowed to have TIF funds direct. That's why we've had that 1/3, 2/3 split pass.
So, to your question, Mr. Chair, does the process application need to be altered in a case like this, where the TIF committee would review the TIF part, but then there would be, for the remainder, would there be a separate application through the community benefit?
One would suspect that would be the way it would need to go, when it didn't go that way. It was, as if the community benefit, community benefit committee said, we're gonna use TIF funds.
Well, we've had these, I can't remember which one it was, but when we get these snowmobile, what do they call it? The thing that smooths the trail out. Groomers. We've done some,
We have
we do that, and it comes through our committee, and the I shouldn't say our committee, the one I sit on, which is community benefit. And then we put the word out to TIF, and we do a combined thing. But it sounds like this is sort of after-the-fact bailout, reminding me of the snowmobile. So you're telling me is that they went ahead and bought this thing without any real assessment of need, and they already have one up there?
No, the need was there, they did not have this equipment at all.
But did they need it? They didn't have it.
Are you okay with Mr. Trafton?
Well, let me just finish. So they spent the money, they spent down all their available funds with the expectation that we would reimburse them.
I don't think people are involved with the fire department. They saw money in an account, they asked certain people in the town government if we could spend it. The town said yes, because the money was in the account. Whether that was best choice of the way they did it was questionable. You know, I'm always not part of the town government, Lloyd can speak for the West Fork. But what happened is that it put the fire department, rescue department at risk. They no longer had money in the account they could get into. So I think the question to buy it was when they bought it and how they bought it may have been a little question. It's good equipment, there's no question, they do have people trained for it. Could they have done it a couple months and then applied for money first? Probably that's what they should have done.
Is it reasonable to project that in the future, communities up and down the county would realize that before they spend thousands of dollars on very expensive medical equipment, with the expectation that we're going to kind of bail them out, that they go through the process first, as we have done with Orange Walk, for example? I mean, that's the right way to do it, with their expensive equipment.
I think this was, from my understanding, certainly an outlier.
Yes.
When did that actual transaction happen? How long ago was that?
I don't have the equipment. Do you remember how long ago that was,
I
Lloyd?
think the actual transaction was done in February.
So that was prior to us even having our current process up and running.
Well, we had a,
Close to?
November is when we first did
Was
it.
it November?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would make a suggestion here that we allow Tim Christian to work more on that joint situation and bring the possible funds in and come back to us with something. I think we're kind of really just pulling away from
Right,
all that. So, just bring it forward. That would be my suggestion, that just have them work out some of the details of how those other funds could be used, along with our community benefit funds, and then come back to us with, something else related to the community benefit funds, including those funds.
Well, I think we can certainly do that. I just don't know how it addresses the resolution that you have in regards to that.
Well, it doesn't, and it is a resolution that we can talk about later. What I was asking in this situation is that, Do we want to have two separate committees, or should we just have one combined committee? And that's a question that can be answered at a later date, but it's something to think about.
It used to be just one, that's kind of why,
It did. And I know that's kind of why some people still think that they should have control of the money and other people think not, and so it gets confused, and we've been a tangled web where we should really have it clear and straight. So,
Well, I'd be interested in setting aside some time at a later date to actually discuss that.
yeah, no, that's, yeah, it doesn't have to be done now.
Right.
This isn't a fire that needs to be put out, it's just a good discussion.
Well, and just specifically setting aside time just for that.
Yeah,
Well, I think it'd be helpful, for me anyway.
well, we can do that in our next meeting,
Yep.
3 weeks from now.
3 weeks from now.
Two,
Is it just 2?
2 weeks.
It's catching on.
Oh, that's right, it is 2 weeks from now.
July 10th.
That's right. 2 weeks.
Works for me.
Trying, we're trying.
I got a wedding to do. So you gotta, just give me my schedule in July, and then you can do it.
Well, your schedule worked for us too, so it's a coincidence of mutual appreciation.
I put Christian on hold, but if you're ready to hear from him.
Are we ready to hear from you, Christian? No.
I think we just, why don't we just keep with the schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forge ahead. We got
All right.
people waiting here, and they've got their,
You can print that as a report.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, we're on to discuss closing the courthouse on July 5th.
So, if you still have that employee handbook handy. Trying to remember, I think
This draft copy?
the draft copy, but the draft copy includes language from our current copy. Page 30. If you turn to page 30. So page 30 has a list of our paid holidays.
Yeah.
And right underneath that list, there's a paragraph that says, "in addition to." It says, "In addition to the above listed holidays, the county will recognize any holiday declared by the state or the federal government." This language has caused a little bit of confusion amongst our employees, because the governor declared that the state offices will be closed on July 5th. Is that a holiday? Or is it a closing?
It's closing. It's not a holiday.
All right, so I wanted to bring that up just to make sure the board was all on the same page. So that is not considered a holiday, so it's not, if the governor says they're closing on the 5th, it's not automatic that the county will close on the 5th.
Right.
Now, however, the counties are falling like dominoes, and they're all closing on the 5th. Penobscot's closing, Kennebec's closing, and Saginaw closing, and Cumberland's closing, and so forth. So I needed to bring it to you to decide what you're going to do on that day.
and by closing, it's automatically a paid holiday.
No,
No.
no.
Or is it
Take
unpaid?
caution,
It's an unpaid holiday.
So it doesn't go, it's not, you don't get paid for not working on the 5th.
The state employee does. So the governor has given them the day off with pay. So that's the
So
expectation.
we're talking about giving them the day off without pay.
I'm just discussing what you want.
But what are these other counties doing?
They're giving them,
They're doing what?
they're giving them pay. They're closing their courthouses essentially.
I got a question. We do this, we pay, it dominoes into every aspect of the county.
That, it dominoes into every non-union. If you give them the day off without pay, close the courthouse, every non-union member would get that day off without pay. Now, obviously, your salaried employees, there's really not much difference in that, so it does impact your hourly employees. Then you go to your different unions that are covered by different CBAs. Only one of them includes language about being paid time and a half if the courthouse closes. Does the FOP have that? If the courthouse closes, they get time and a half? Okay. So then you have to factor that in So there is some inequity in it all. But, and there is a fiscal impact to it. But it all depends on what you want to do. The other option is you could just close the courthouse that day and make it an unpaid holiday or unpaid day off, and employees could choose. They could choose to work from home, they could choose to come in and work in their office, or they could take a comp or vacation day. That usually doesn't bode well with employees, because again, it makes it awkward on them if they don't have the time or they don't want to use the time.
I guess, I don't know how many holidays, I guess there's a list right there.
13.
We have a lot of paid days for not working.
13 paid holidays.
And everyone who's not working gets paid a different rate for doing the same thing, which is nothing. So it's an interesting sort of philosophical discussion about paid days off. So, and it just seems to me that we just keep having them. We're almost saying, we don't really need to have all these people here working all the time, because frankly, we get everything done by just paying them not to do anything. It just, I struggle with that. I feel like there's important work that needs to be done, so just declaring holidays and paying people to not work is...
I'll be the evil one. This work looks right.
But,
And I don't have a problem with closing and it being unpaid. And of course, in my mind, the reasoning is a large percentage of the people who are actually going to pay for somebody to have the day off and be paid will be working, so that they can pay the people to have the day off.
So logistically, what this does impacting the courthouse is you have probates, deeds, our office, and the DA's office. And if you remain open for that day, obviously there needs to be people to staff that office when the public comes in to anticipate service. So if you choose not to have that day off, I already know there are several people who are not planning to work that day anyhow, so they're going to take their vacation time. But each of these departments would have to make sure that there's at least one person there to staff. If you went the way of saying, let's just close the courthouse, but it's an unpaid day, then you give people at least the option of using, or coming into work. I would come into work if it was closed, because I'd have stuff to get done, or I'd work from home.
Leave it an unpaid day, and everybody across the board decides to take it off. Everyone is eligible to use vacation.
We do have some new employees that have not earned in that time yet, so that puts them in an awkward position.
Can't lose it.
Right.
So if you had 4th of July plans that involved going on a 4-day weekend, and you were not a new employee, you could just take that as a day off. Enjoy your weekend.
Take vacation.
We're not voting on this right now.
Well, it's an article on the agenda, because we have a bunch of people here that have to report back to their employees as to what they're going to do that day.
So Tim's the only one that's working on the bid.
I don't know.
And my assumption would be, in some of these departments, if the state is down, then they lose some of their contact. I mean, their job is actually limited.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so myself personally, I would favor closing, but not being a new paid day off, or, if they have vacation, take your vacation.
Well, we're already doing it for New Year's and Christmas and Thanksgiving. They're getting half days or days before or after.
Well, working from home too, I mean, all our employees, how many can effectively work from home? If you're a clerk in the DA's office, you work from
You can, yes. The DA's office is set up to work from home, even for their secretaries and clerks.
Is this one like post-COVID?
Yeah, it's probably not so easy for some of the clerks and probate and deeds to work from home.
Well, what about the prospect of a furlough day?
And your point, Joel, is that gas stations, banks, supermarkets, and everything else are working on
I know many people that are collecting Social Security that need to work, and they'll be working on Friday, and it's their tax dollars that are gonna pay for other people
We'll be
who
working,
have the day off.
and they'll be working
I
on,
just don't think it's right.
they'll also be working on July 4th where they can.
So can you explain what you mean by furlough day?
It's just an unpaid day.
Oh. I thought that's what we were talking about.
That's what it would be.
That's what we're
Just
talking
fancy.
about. It's a furlough.
I expect them from house.
Keep up, will ya?
He's over egg the omelet, so.
It's a custard.
Check that. So again, there's a resolution on this forthcoming.
Yep, okay. Public hearings, none. Public comment to allow members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. Anybody in the public? No one from the public. New agenda items, commissioners only. Nothing. Finance reporting.
We currently have 132 on our roster, that's one down from last month. We actually have 15 open positions. We're getting closer to year end. By the end of next month, we should have the majority of the expenses booked, timing delays. But it looks like the general fund will come in at 1.5 million favorable, roughly 900,000 of that due to labor openings, and roughly the other 600,000 interest income from the bank. Jail fund looks like it's going to be favorable by 350,000. Quite a mixture in that we put roughly 2.1 million to be utilized out of undesignated fund balance to balance it. But we have favorable variance in labor, roughly 1.6 million. Favorable in the housing that feds of 360,000. Favorable in supporting other borders, which is Oxford and Knobscott of about 195. Utilities, electric, and oil are favorable by about 45,000 each, so that's 90,000. Our maintenance agreements under budget by 100,000. And our legal issues under budget by 73,000. So all those favorable variances are basically offset because of, 2.1 million we didn't really utilize from the undesignated fund. The UTs look like they're going to come in favorable by roughly 250,000, and 100,000 of that is from interest income, and the rest are related to roads in the sense of 74,000 is road maintenance, and 66,000 is snow removal.
Any questions?
Once we get closer to the actual numbers, I'll put together the undesignated fund balance so you can actually see what we have in each of the funds.
Okay.
I'm all for that.
So about how much do we have in the unfunded, in the undesignated fund balance now?
What's that?
What's the estimate for the fund balance now, the undesignated fund balance?
Which one?
All of them.
Well, the general fund, with the 1.5 is going to be, it's going to be close to 4.5. Let me see. Currently got 3.5, so that, it's going to be roughly 5 million. The jail is going to be roughly 3.7, and the UT is going to be close to maybe 650,000. But some of the UT ones have already been applied for next year's budget. Same with the general fund, roughly. Some of that was also applied. But I'll lay that all out in the sense of how this past budget, how we outline some of the outer years, so I can show you how those funds are going to be utilized in the upcoming budget.
Okay, thank you. Who can I pick on next? Mike Smith.
So, yesterday, I submitted the first draft of the hazard mitigation plan to the state for their review. At the time I sent it to her, we still had 3 towns that hadn't reported back to me. Fortunately, I went to a session with KB Cog yesterday afternoon, and Elaine Alves got on the phone as soon as she got home, those 3 towns. And so far, I've had communications with 2 of them, so I'm down to just 1 town at this point to go into the plan. Once that comes back, we'll have a public hearing and present it out before we submit it for final approval. I did, as I said, went to KB Cog's meeting yesterday, just did a quick presentation on planning, on emergency operations plans, emergency action plans, and on hazard mitigation plans. I think I pretty much got the same response from each town that, the most recent plan that I have in our files for any town is from 2012. And I know some of them go back into the 1990s and their plans have not been updated. So it's one of the things that KB Cog is looking at, is they're looking at some mitigation funding money from a grant to actually provide that service to the towns, and we'll be working on helping each other towns with their grants. This morning I went to Jackman. CISA came into Jackman to do, at Jackman's request, at the school's request, security evaluation of the school. About 3 hours and 15 minutes we were in the school going through, looking at, cameras and doors and windows and just every possible nook and cranny. We walked around the building, found several open doors that weren't locked. Just little things like that. So they'll be coming back with recommendations for them to improve the security of the school. And I think I'm good other than that.
Any questions? Thank you. Very good. Tammy?
Good afternoon. I just want to take a moment to recognize 2 employees. Maine EMS recently awarded both Molly Bell and Tony Gilbert with the Phoenix Award, which is using their skills and knowledge participated in the successful resuscitation of a patient who experienced cardiac arrest event. So both of those were recognized for 2023. These are different than, like we've had some in recent weeks of overdoses that the dispatcher provided pre-arrival CPR instructions, and the patient was breathing when responders arrived. These were submitted to Maine EMS by the responders, saying that dispatch had that effect on the patient.
Great.
Very proud of both.
Well, congratulations. Thank you. Anything else? No. Major Mike?
At the jail, we currently have 8 openings, so we've ticked up 1. Still not getting a whole lot of interest. I mean, we're getting a few applicants here and there, but getting the callbacks or follow through. To that point, though, the jail and the sheriff's office are hosting a joint job fair tomorrow in the jail lobby, public access area, so hopefully we'll get some interest there and maybe get a walk-in candidate or 2 that we can bring on board. And we're also hosting, the jail is also hosting a statewide jail administrators meeting in our facility tomorrow. So we're continuing to discuss ways collectively that the facilities can hopefully save on costs, such as purchasing food, purchasing other uniforms for inmates, healthcare costs. So we're always looking for additional ways to come up with efficiencies to help our bottom line.
Thank you.
If I could just hop on that for a minute. Commissioner Cezak's aware of this because he's on the MCCA Legislative Policy Committee, but counties next month are getting ready to send information to the group that makes recommendations to the governor for her budget for jail funding. And some of the pushback that the counties have gotten is, you guys are all on islands, you don't talk, you don't work together. So Major Pipe is sending me minutes of his jail administrative meetings where all the county jail administrators get together and have these discussions of how they work together, so we can submit that as evidence with our request for more jail funding. So it's very good.
Thank you. Christian?
Good afternoon. I had my board meeting in Bingham this morning, and our In Tech Lab, we're calling it the Somerset Connect Hub. Doesn't really thrill anyone to hear the name somewhere, I guess. So it's the space we've been talking about. It'll offer digital skills training, remote workspace, telehealth space, and one-on-one tech support. So we'll track all of that data. At that meeting, my board also approved $400,000 grant to consolidate it with a fiber fiber expansion. This is going from the West Forks to the Carlin Pond area. It's really the last section of Somerset that doesn't have either fiber upgrades, complete construction, or other fiber and copper upgraded systems, mostly in the Spectrum territory. So this will close that gap. The funds we have to utilize are from the CMP Corridor Broadband Fund. We were reading the writing on the wall. If we didn't expend those funds, the state would probably try to take those back and maybe shoot them somewhere else. Those funds have to be used in corridor host communities. So Carlin Pond, and West Forks, and Johnson Mountain are in fact host communities. So there's that, and then I gave you a packet, kind of the rundown and history of mitigation fund conversations. Thanks for the reply to the program. With that, I'll accept all ideas from the commission, but I'm curious if you'd like for Tim and I to get together, put some blueprint or parameters around some proposal you guys can weigh in on, or do you want to just keep the blank canvas and kind of see what sticks? I think your reply, Robert, was pretty detailed. Some of that might be eligible, but some other funds will be coming into. I'm not saying that it should be in that list, but it's really the next step to close out those mitigation fund agreements. So, we wanted to know what past funds have been used for. I can speak to that, and what future planning is. So that's why that.
Well, in regards to that $600,000 that we're talking about now, another idea, which I think is a very good one, is take $150,000 of that and use it for the towers so that the sheriff's department will be simulcast on a law enforcement frequency.
You had mentioned that. I might be able to squeeze that into the broadband fund. We're trying to push not just internet connection, but also total communication improvements. So I think we list that, if we can pull from the broadband fund, essentially let the commission have more
That'd be good.
remaining funds.
Yep.
But I think we include that, and we should know probably by fall of where that broadband fund stands in terms of total dollars. We're not seeing eye to eye right now, so.
But has CMP given us the $600,000 at this point?
No, they want, so the problem with that is the executive team is all new, so they've been playing catch up for a few months now. They weren't part of these negotiations at the last minute. So my initial conversation was a pretty cold response from them. They've warmed up now, but they wanted some thought on how the county uses those funds. So once that's forwarded to Island Grid or CMP, I'm not sure the timing of the funds, but I know that's needed to have them essentially shoot up the ladder to the shareholders.
Have they provided you with the other funds, 100,000, the other million? No?
Can you speak up a little bit? I can't hear you, I'm sitting right there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, this thing's going.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing everybody too. So on the other funds, that you're saying that you could get the tower funds from? Do we have those?
We received 600 in 2021 or 22. We haven't expended much of that. We approved 400,000 today. We also put in for 180,000 for municipal support, essentially bringing up their staff up to training on certain softwares, programs, websites, online services for the residents. So that meeting happened this morning with the state, so I have to see how that went. The initial disbursement of 500,000 in, I don't know, get my years mixed up, 21 or 22. 500 came to SCDC, the commission, we sent 400 back to the county. You two probably remember that. So the commission funded Run River project. I can't remember if that's 200 or 300,000. The Fairfield trip.
It was 200,000, I believe.
It was 200?
And 150,000 for the fire training,
Yeah. And then 50 for the PPE.
the PPE, right.
Yeah.
I don't know if the other new commissioners are scratching their heads over the way I am on this, but I had no idea of this whole thing, and no one's ever told me about it, as a commissioner. Do I understand that CMP made a commitment to give us a large pile of money as a result of the corridor?
In short, yes.
And how much did they say they would give us?
2 million.
And do we have the 2 million?
There is $1 million in the broadband fund that will be coming to SEDC. Essentially, the state and the stipulation signatories said broadband funds will go to the Franklin and Somerset County Development Corporations. So that's kind of the county broadband arm, if you will. We're working with those broadband funds. None of this money was supposed to be available until the project was finished. They started releasing some, in my opinion, to win some favoritism. Grease
the skids.
So as we saw some money getting released, the past commission said, all right, call them and see if we can, get on that list. So we were successful to some part, but it's taken a while to get them back at the table. I feel I'm pretty confident they'll fulfill that commitment that is signed and executed, but outside of the stipulation and the whole project package. That their concern was this would open everything back up. They'd have to go back to permitting and all that stuff. So
I still don't understand it.
So, if I could, I'm learning this as well. So $2 million was promised to the county, 1 million went to broadband funds that is controlled by SEDC. Another $1 million was promised to the commissioners, money that we would hold in our accounts and utilize for projects. Of that $1 million, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding when there was turnover at the executive board of Avangrid and CMP. So of that $1 million, 400,000 was given to the previous commission, and it was spent on 3 projects. The Fairfield Fire Department and the PPE building over by the comm center. So that 400 is coming on. So what's in question now is, will the new executive people at CMP give that promised $600,000 to the county commissioners? And if they do, they want to know what you're going to use it for. So.
But is that a binding promise they made? Are they allowed to just sort of change their mind on this?
According to the letters that Christian showed to the new administration from the old administration, it is pretty cut and dry that $1 million comes to the county.
Did they have any parameters?
Is that what I hear?
Yes.
I know the 400,000 went to Run of the River and some of the other things. Were there any parameters, or was it just open to the commissioner's discretion, slush fund?
Full discretion of the commission.
Basically, yes.
Now, Avangrid has said they really want future funds focused within the corridor. Close proximity, it doesn't have to be right.
Okay.
That's
what they would, so if we drew up something that fell inside those guidelines, that would improve our chances of
Yeah, I mean,
making
if we're like, hey, we're gonna spend the 600,000 to scouting again, I think I'd have a hard time harder time getting them to pull the trigger. I feel like, you know, they have said to me, look, we'll honor all these past promises. It's taken them the better part of a year to get here, but they had the project to get up and running and get under construction.
Well, I think that what I sent is a good start. I sent it to everybody, so you should have it in your emails. But I don't have it in front of me, so shall we price through it?
Well, I think that the focus in general of what you sent benefited the whole county in regards to public safety, communications, having all of the sheriff's deputies on the same wavelength,
Yeah.
from the top of the county to the bottom.
Right.
So that if we say that we're gonna utilize some or all of this money, or maybe just put the money in a CD and you earn interest on it every year, use that to help upgrade towers, or maybe use a portion of it to do the big upgrade now. So I think that should satisfy CMP, because the commissions want to use this in a way that benefits the public safety and the communications throughout the county.
Right, and it will help CMP, because if you have a good public safety, then their quarters are
That's right.
safer.
Right.
So, in addition to that, what they sent in our executed documents was, you know, the county would have access to this fund. It's an educational fund. It's a energy efficiency fund. So essentially, I told them this year, I said, look, that's great. We're not applying to these funds. We will apply to these funds on top of what we're promised. So, you know, your education part with the lineman program, maybe we can apply to their education fund. But I'm like, you know, the county was promised $1 million project balance, and you need to pull that, you need to find the money somewhere. And so that's, I think, what's taken them so long to do. So I think if we have some ideas and some programming and areas of support to get the thumbs up, we receive those funds. You know, we do have to fill out you know, some reporting to it, but we wouldn't be beholden to everything we listed in that
Right.
potential eligible use.
Yeah, and that's why I also put in emergency services like the fire departments and the first responders.
Yeah.
And the other thing about that, I think you could use to appease them, is that we're developing a TIF corridor that is from the corridor to be used as well, so that helps.
I think one of the things I'd like to see that we could discuss is, of course, we're now being presented over the last month or so, ATV and snowmobile trail destruction from the past storms, and we're getting very large asks that we're pulling from community benefit and things like that. With the whole corridor saga, a large percentage of the pushback on the corridor was from the idea of tourism industry and our scenic areas and things like that. So for me, I would, and maybe the number's probably not out there yet, but complete restoration after the storms of these tourist-based trails, what would that be? And I think, to me, it would make sense to actually take a good chunk of this to allocate for future spends on that. I mean, we already talked about, I think, last meeting, that if we gave them all the money, they couldn't get the work done. There's just not enough people to get the work done. But if we were able to sort of set that aside for the work to get done and allocate over a period of time, you know, it's almost a little bit of, I don't know, is it greasing the skids again? No, it's on the other side of it, greasing the skids, but, you know, blood money, right? Like the wind towers, we'll call it blood money.
So we're talking about $600,000 that we want to get. But we certainly could use it to help small towns purchase extremely expensive medical equipment throughout the county, including defibrillators. But I know this letter's not dated. I assume it's in response to your letter that you wrote in 2020. And they said they were going to give us $1 million, and now they're saying they don't want to, or they?
It just had to be reminded that letter existed.
I mean, so all the other mitigation funding is documented in a permitting process. This is outside of that. This is a long shot, really, back in 2019 and 20, so the fact that we're hopefully close to this, I think is good, because they could easily shoot that down.
So what's the next thing that has to happen?
I'll probably give it a few days if you guys have any other comments on what you'd like to get in there, and then probably between Tim and I, we can polish something up, send it to you all for stuff to send over to them, and then it's a waiting game from there.
Dave, how big of a proposal did some of these folks give us on storm damage on the trails and things like that? Was it?
Basically, the largest one I received was the one at the last TIF meeting. The total amount they were looking at was like $240,000.
Is that full restoration?
That was that entire area. I haven't heard too much from other clubs because they didn't have the same damage level that the Bingham area did. Because when I say Bingham area, we're extending basically 40 miles in every direction. Up north, we haven't had any of those requests. We have actually had another ATV municipal grant come through. We always had one, that was the Rockwood, because it has to be in the UT. But Pinkston Farms joined in this year for another $60-something thousand. That's the state money that's generated through registrations and other things with ATVs. So that money didn't touch on TIF or community benefit at all. That was strictly state money that flows through the county out to the clubs. So between the two clubs that we did municipal grants for, it's about $104,000 for two ATV clubs. But we can't handle Bingham because that is inside of town. So the Moose Valley Riders ATV Club, and of course a lot of these trails are multi-use, so the snowmobile, I forget what it is, Moose Valley Riders, I think maybe.
But this thing that we're talking about here would satisfy part of that.
Yeah, I know they're getting money from other sources. I know they've gotten one grant from Yamaha, the corporation, for, I think it was $15,000 for that one. Remember that? Yeah, I think so. And I know they've applied with Polaris because they do all their rentals, the Route 201 Power Sports, all their rentals are Polaris. So they've got a good friendly relationship with Polaris. I know they've applied to get some funds through Polaris, and I'm sure they'll get some. To my knowledge, they haven't had a response yet, but, you know, they're not certainly looking for us to pay foot the whole bill. In fact, I think they were surprised at the amount that was recommended by the TIF committee. I passed it on, I said nothing's official until we get a full vote of the commission board. But yes, they were very happy to get it. They have definite plans on if they get it, where it's going to be spent. They have a priority list of what needs to be done first. You know, they're very active in what they do, when they believe in what they do, and they have contractors waiting. So once they get some funds, they'll get some of these trails.
So just to rephrase, probably a better way of saying it is winning the hearts and minds fund as opposed to
Blood.
blood.
Come on, Brian. Is there, the process by which they come up with a $240,000 damage assessment, is there a written report on this? Did they go over the whole trail mile
Yeah,
by
they
mile?
sent it in to us, had a lot of maps showing which trails were damaged. The most damaged sections have dollar amount to them, which will include adding gravel where it got washed away, repairing bridges, putting culverts back in.
And do they have contractor bids and?
I think they probably had contractors go out and estimate. I don't think they could do a bidding process because you'd have to try to break it apart into different areas. They just got an amount they think they can get everything done. And until they get started, you know, it's a rough figure.
That means they need more later.
So we don't pay as we go, like well, gee, that bridge didn't really cost us 40,000, we got it done for 3.
No, we don't.
We just give them the money.
Get reports.
There's nothing saying we can't.
When we say we don't get reports, you get the report.
Usually the TIF committee will review reports. I get letters in the past, we haven't sent any TIF money out recently. But in the past, we'd get letters saying we've got this done and we've done that. Very often you can go visually see what's been done. If they had to replace a bridge, you can go look at the bridge. We've unfortunately sent out a lot of money for a lot of projects and there's nothing ever shows for it. From the river as an example, because until they start getting people out there on kayaks and wakeboards and whatever they plan on doing, that's one of those where you've got to build up your funds ahead of time before you get things up and running. The trail work is something you can visually see as they do it.
All set? Okay. Tanya?
Good afternoon. So after a conversation with Commissioner Cezak on May 15th, I started keeping track of the walk-in customers at the registry. And I just wanted to let you know that we're averaging about 6 customers per day who are coming in person to record documents, but mostly to do their research in person. Even though we do have the website available, some folks either don't have internet or a computer or aren't comfortable navigating the website, which can be challenging at times. Excuse me, so that's averaging about 6 people per day. And then the other update I had for you is 2 Fridays ago, the members of the Registry of Deeds Association met with team members from the Maine Rev tax portal team up in Greenville at our June meeting, and they did kind of a soft rollout of the new tax portal that will take over for Info Maine to collect the transfer tax. That switch will happen in October, and the registrars feel comfortable. We are at the point now where we're seeing that it's probably going to benefit our side of it. The process should be easier, it should be clearer for the customers, and the state has been doing a great job communicating and training us on that.
Questions? What's that? Thank you. Sheriff?
I want to prefix my comments with, I do support Commissioner Cezak. If we could get simulcast for the rest of the county communications, that would be a big step forward. Patrol covered 529 calls for service last week. Some of the work that the detectives and patrol have done. We charged a St. Albans man with 1 count of burglary and 2 counts of theft from St. Albans. We charged a Palmyra man with receiving 2 counts of receiving stolen property that occurred in St. Albans and Cambridge. We charged a Heartland man with possession of stolen property out of a case in St. Albans. We charged 3 counts of theft of a Skowhegan man out of a theft from Madison and Solon. And we charged an individual counts of burglaries out of a case out of Harmony. That's just some of the work that has been going on. Our cruisers are starting to come in out of the FY24 budget. We have 4 vehicles out of the 7 that are scheduled to show up. As already been articulated, we've been extremely aggressive with our recruiting process. Patrol has 2 openings now, and we have some possible candidates for that.
Questions?
Can I ask the sheriff or Major Pike to speak to the capital account request, that's resolution 136, which was a late ad, they didn't get this.
So
a while ago, prior to my arrival at the facility, it came to light that we have two large chillers on the roof of our facility that essentially keep the building cool during the summer months. When the place was constructed back in 2008, only one of the chillers was connected to the generator that we have on site. Unfortunately, last summer, that chiller went down for several days during one of the hottest periods of the year. And come to find out, the second chiller was not attached to our backup generator. So what this proposal is from Travers Electric is to essentially wire that second chiller to our backup generator. So if we run into this situation again, that second chiller will still be operable.
Yeah, and as to the major's point, those chillers are, keep the temperature constant inside the building. And we were in a panic mode last year when the chiller went down and we found out that the second one wasn't connected because that inside the jail started to heat up.
So this would essentially correct a deficiency that we discovered as of late, but that probably should have been included in the original construction package, but wasn't for whatever reasons.
Sheriff, are you seeing a rise in these property crimes and burglaries, or is this over the short period of time, over the last couple of years, or is it pretty much static?
I believe we're right now experiencing an uptick with our thefts and our burglaries, and that's tied to a myriad of issues, but in part having to do with purchasing of drugs.
It's always that peak of that cycle, isn't it?
Right.
Thank you.
What's that? Any other questions? Thank you. And moving forward, we got all the department heads. Did I get your name?
No.
Okay.
Just give you a quick update. Lately, I have been working just on normal UT E911 stuff, but I submitted for a review the application for the gravel pit in Lexington. I had reached a point where I could do about as much as I could do on it, and I just wanted to get a double check from the LUPC, see if what I had so far was okay. Woman working in the Greenville office hadn't done one before and didn't know what to do, so she submitted it as a completed application. And I don't know how she did that because there's like a $4,000 fee that's supposed to go with this, and there was no fee sent in. Anyway, they got an incomplete application, so they turned it down. And I explained they've also shifted from the Greenville office to the Ashland office. Billy Terrio up there is much more experienced. And I told her on the phone, I said, this was not a completed application. This was just, I wanted to review on what I've done so far. She was happy to hear that because I had a bunch of stuff where, not known to this agent was my answer. That's not going to be acceptable on an application. So we're now working with her. We'll have a meeting set up with Gary Dunphy, Phil Curtis, myself, and probably a couple people else at Woodpecker Logging, Troy Dunphy, and possibly Gabriel, who also does work up there. So we're going to get together, we're going to hash out everything that I didn't know about gravel pits, and Lord knows I don't know much about them. I usually use them for target practice when I'm, going out shooting my rifle.
That's all you need to know.
So basically, with the big meeting is going to take place, then we will resubmit the application. As far as FEMA goes, they've shot down the May storm application simply because of the gravel pit not being licensed. Everything else, paperwork, documentation, everything was great, but the gravel pit not being licensed, they turned it down. We can, if we get a license quick enough, and I don't think we can, but we're gonna try, ask for them to review their rejection. If we get it licensed, I think it'll be okay, but there's just, doesn't seem to be enough people working at the state level to get things done. I've run into this.
How many people employed there, just not working?
Well,
Well, they got plenty of-
not that far, but I know for a fact that our snowmobile grants this year are taking longer than they ever have before. And I had to call today, here we are at the end of the year, and I had 3 more checks that were due to us for our clubs. And Joe Higgins basically said that we've got all these new people working for us. So he found where those were, and he put them from the bottom of the pile to the top of the pile. So we should be getting checks fairly quickly, but it's still later than it's ever been. So it's difficult to get things done working with the state, I'm afraid.
Your process that you just talked about with the dumpies and all the others,
Yeah.
what kind of time frame are you thinking there?
We'll have the meeting, I assume, next week. I don't have a date yet. I'll let Phil set that up. I'm pretty much always able to make most meetings. Of course, 4th of July is next week too, so within a couple of weeks, we'll have the meeting. Once I get all the information, I will get it down on paper and we'll send that in. The only thing yet to be determined, and I assume Woodpecker Logging is going to give us a check for the application fee. That's what I expect.
That'll be good.
I don't figure we're going to foot the bill. If we foot the bill, we'll just take it back as, credit for work they're going to do for us. Because we buy a lot of gravel out of that pit, so we just won't pay for 4,000 plus of it, if it works out that way.
Barber system.
I assume they'll write us a check and keep everything above. That's it.
What's that? Any questions?
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. No unfinished business, resolution 24-123 to reconsider a community benefit matching grant of $2,066 to the Friends of the L.C. Bates Museum to assist with a marketing campaign.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second? Discussion?
Well, is your motion to approve that grant or just to reconsider?
Bring it for reconsideration.
Well, it can only,
It's a motion in favor of it, of
reconsidering that,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you have a second, so any discussion?
I'm in favor of it. I feel it's a worthy cause, and I thought there was a little misunderstanding the last time we voted, and I think that's been resolved, so hopefully we have the votes to pass it.
I think you do. I hope you do. I think it's a worthy cause. Any further discussion?
So is this going to be the normal process? We just vote on it until we actually get the result we want in the end, or?
Well, there's 2 ways of looking at that, is we had the committee okay it for us, they vetted it, and then it was 2-2, turned down because he's on the committee, L.C. Bates. Whatever, you got the option to vote whichever way you want to.
Just asking a question.
Well, I think, and I would answer your question by saying when these situations come up, we can always do it. But probably in the future, there'll be times when we want to reconsider what we've done in the past. We may not change our mind, and we may, so that's part of ordinary human transactions, I think.
There's always that ability to reconsider. I think in this case, the reconsideration is more urgent because it was a tie vote, and with that, there's no real resolution, but when there's a vote that's up and down, then those are votes of resolution.
And that's a good explanation. If it's a tie vote because there's a commissioner missing and a commissioner that was missing would like a reconsideration, then that explanation would be.
So, shall we continue with the vote? All in favor? Any opposed? And I'm abstaining again, so I want to thank you for reconsideration. And and for the positive vote. Thank you very much. Yes. New business resolution 24-124 to approve the recommissions of William Quigley, Dwayne Long, Jeremy Leo, Wilfred Dodge as deputies in the Somerset County Sheriff's Office.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 24-125 to ratify the correction supervisor's contract effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2027.
Second.
I have a question on that. Whoops, wrong one. It's just a matter of, I read it and correction supervisors. It's under the Article 5, Management Rights and Department Rules. It says the employer retains all rights and authority to manage and direct its employees and to determine work shift, and then it says employer to make such rules and regulations governing the conduct of its employees that are not specifically inconsistent with the provisions of the agreement. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around that. What does that mean? You people who did this, help me out.
Well, obviously, we didn't look closely at this article because neither the county nor the corrections officers wanted it changed. So it's been there probably 12 years. Are you asking for a clarification of the
Yeah, I want to know what it means. It doesn't mean anything to me. Not specifically inconsistent. And I didn't know if it was also missing employer retains all rights and authority to make, which is not in there, if that should be in there. So I don't know, what does it mean? Help me out.
I think it gives the employer the right to set the schedule and the right to create rules, because both the jail and the sheriff's office have their own standard operating procedures. And they have the right to make those rules as long as they're not inconsistent with the rules of this agreement. In other words, if they make a rule about sick time that's not consistent with what's in here for sick time, they can't do that.
So right now, for like scheduling, I say I don't mean pronoun I person, but the sheriff I can change your schedule, but I have to, by contract, I have to give you a 14-day notice. So I still have management rights to do that, but I have to follow the CBA to get it done.
Well, which is all well and good. That's actually the first sentence. It's really the second sentence that befuddles me.
I would say this. I can work with whomever represents the supervisors to clarify this language, but that should not hold up the ratifying of the contract.
I'm not saying that it's going to. I'm just saying that I don't know what it means, and I want to know, I want it clarified.
I can certainly do that and get you that.
And I don't think that the correction supervisors would mind amending.
Right.
If it was clarified, so we all understand, we're all on the same page as it were. But I want to know what it means. I don't know.
Yep.
And again, it's like, is it missing retains all rights and authority to make such rules? And I just...
And that's very possible.
Yeah.
Something got lost in multiple
It's
translation.
lost in translation there, so. It's the same thing in the corrections,
Yep.
so.
All right, I'll make a note of that.
All right, thank you, that's all I had to say. I didn't know what it meant. So we have the Motion is second. Is there any further discussion on the ratification? All in favor? Good. Thank you. Resolution 24-126 to approve county commissioner mileage reimbursement. Is there something we need to sign? So moved by Johns. Second.
I have all the signatures for later.
Okay, very good. Discussion? We have the signatures for later, okay. All in favor? Thank you. Good go. Resolution 24-127 to authorize Somerset County membership in the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments to include annual membership fee of $7,825.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Has there been any change in the price of salt that was used as a determinant to join
So
Cedar
that
Park?
price was set this spring.
Okay.
They took in all the bids, and that's the bid for our
Okay, so then that will save us that money.
It will, so we clarified with KV Cog and Dave clarified with the state what those two bids are. There's a $9 difference in favorable with KV Cog's price. And so that would save the county possibly $10,000.
Very good.
Yeah. The other thing I would add is what you heard in Dave's report, the frustration he had with going before LUPC. That is a benefit that KV Cog can help with because they are trained planners in that regard. They know how to read the applications. So going forward, that may be of assistance to the UT.
Excellent. Very good. Anything else? All in favor?
I would just add a specification. This $7,800 is not in the UT budget, and it's not in our municipal or our general fund budget. So if you're willing to do this, if you could allocate this money from TIF in that motion, that would be beneficial. And this is a clear TIF eligible expense. It's written in the TIF, Kennebec Valley Council of Governments.
I move to redact my previous motion and change it to approving the fee to be paid out of the TIF funds.
I think we can do it just as a friendly amendment and go forward. Is that all right?
However you want to write it up.
Discussion?
I got it. I wrote all that down while you were talking.
Okay.
All right. So we're all good with that? Coming from, all right. Thank you. Moving on, resolution 24-128 to approve the law.
I don't think you actually voted on that.
You actually did vote on it.
Vote on the friendly amendment.
Yeah, all in favor of the friendly amendment. I guess it's.
All right. The friendly amendment just means it's consensus. All in favor?
Yeah.
All right. We'll do it officially.
Talk about money.
Yeah.
That's a good, let's go, yay. Resolution 24-128 to approve the law enforcement contract between the Somerset County Sheriff's Office and the town of Madison.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? No opposed, very good. Resolution 24-129 to authorize a resolution urging state lawmakers to consider rural Maine as a potential location for a new medical school.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? We've all seen the resolution. All in favor? Resolution 24-130 to recognize the notice of retirement from Karen Moore for her position of Executive Secretary with the Somerset County Sheriff's Office for 38 years.
So moved.
After.
I know, but I need a second.
Second.
This is selfish of me, but I say reject it. Here.
I can provide a personal note here because 38 years ago, or I don't know how long ago it was, but it's 1986, I left the DA's office and opened up my own little law office, and I actually hired Karen. She was very young and inexperienced, and there was some sort of it was some sort of training program with some government subsidies, and I just met her, and she was very excited, and then about a few weeks later, I decided I'd go work for Drew Ketterer, and I had to tell her, I guess I can't do that, so there was a job opening in the DA's office almost at the same time, and I urged her to apply for that, and I urged Ruth, I gave her a very strong recommendation, and she started working there, and the rest is history. So I'm glad it all worked out. I felt pretty crummy when that happened. So anyway, she's great.
All in favor? Resolution 24-131 to authorize the posting of a job opening for executive secretary at the Somerset County Sheriff's Office.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Resolution 24-132 to close the county courthouse for business on Friday, July 5th, 2024.
Would you want me to?
I think you wanted to keep it open.
Well, I'm okay with the unpaid situation if they wanted to use their vacation time. So-
But if you want to make a motion, would you specify?
Your argument was compelling. I would move to close the office and allow employees to take their vacation time on a non-paid.
Thank you. Yeah. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a second. Is there a discussion?
I would just ask Tim, just logistically, is it better to close the courthouse and not have people work here, or is it better to just say it's a regular day, but if you want to take the day off, that's okay?
Well, it would be, logistically, it's better to close the courthouse because it frees up some of those employees that would have to be here if we were open, that don't have the benefit. So, if we opened it, there would have to be somebody in DA, have to be somebody in deeds, have to be somebody in probate. By closing it.
But by closing it, we expect them all to be working at home.
Or
Unless they're taking
they take the day.
unpaid day.
And I've spoken with some of the department heads that have this situation, and they're already prepared to offer work from home if
Okay.
employees want it.
Got it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Thank you. Resolution 24-133 to submit the following question to voters on the November 5th, 2024 ballot proposing a change in the Somerset County Register of Deeds position from elected to appointed, and that question would be as follows. Tim?
Oh, where did I put it? That was hours ago. Shall the Somerset Register of Deeds position be changed from an elected position to a position selected through a competitive hiring process and appointed by the Board of Commissioners?
Both then.
Then, yes.
appointed?
Opposed to and.
Then.
All right, nice.
Discussion?
Do you have a motion on that?
So move.
We did have a discussion.
Second.
I didn't hear a motion.
Yeah, sorry, wait a second.
Motion to adopt the language as just read by, that's your motion.
Yeah.
I second your motion.
We're so motion.
All right, further discussion?
Second that motion.
Seeing none, all in favor? Resolution 24-134 to approve the hiring of Charles Poisonier as disciplinary hearing officer for the Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Let's go. Thank you. Resolution 24-135 to approve the hiring of Hunter Cormier as full-time patrol deputy for Somerset County Sheriff's Office.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
If in fact he works out, because he's starting off, he lives in Tom Heaton, so this would be a UT deputy.
Great. Perfect.
Homeowners Association.
Capital reserve expenditures to approve spending $22,000 from the account G12404501 Somerset County Jail Equipment Reserve to pay for electrical upgrades to power back up the HVAC unit at Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? So go, thank you. Resolution 24-137 to approve a reimbursement to West Forks Fire and Rescue for the purchase of a striker defibrillator. TIF committee recommends $12,807.25 paid from the UT TIF and $25,614.49 from community benefit funds.
So moved.
It's been moved, there's no second. No second, so it dies for lack of second. Resolution 24-138 to approve a grant of $100,000 to the Bingham Area Recreational Trail Restoration and Improvement Project. TIF committee recommends $100,000 from the UT TIF fund. There's no motion, so
So moved.
is there a second? There's a second. Motion by Joel, second by John. Discussion.
Is this part of the $240,000?
Yes,
So where's the other 140 coming from?
they're raising that. As I said, they've applied and they've received
From the
money.
Polaris and, okay.
And they collect also. And they get money from a lot of businesses and they don't.
So this is sort of in the nature of a matching,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're not putting the whole bill up for anything, we're 40% or so.
So this will be earmarked and they won't get it until we raise the other 140?
No, they'll start working on the trails as soon as we give them money.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So
So, yeah,
the ongoing,
process
yeah,
gets all done, so.
yeah. All right, just wanted to clarify that, thank you. All in favor? And we've got it. Warrants, resolution 24-139, to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, and unorganized territories. And I've got no total,
You don't have a total on yours?
no.
Oh,
It's above the line.
It's above
That's
that.
above the line, $160,650.56.
Oh,
That can't be right.
That's not right.
That doesn't,
That can't be right.
Because one of the lines on it,
Yes,
there
it's-
just is no description next to it.
Yeah.
160.
That's no description. There we go, here's a line, here's a amount right here. All right, on resolution 24-139, to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, and unorganized territories, with total amount of $469,871.50.
50 cents.
move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only. Yes, sir.
I have my first miscellaneous discussion item for commissioners only. I would like to continue the conversation when appropriate on the West Forks defibrillator situation. I would, myself personally, I would lean towards, just like what we've been doing with community benefit and others, is a 50-50 match. Their match being basically an empty checkbook. I think if they had brought this to us, we probably would have done that. I can't speak for all of you, but, looking at everything else that's happened, so I would, I'd be interested in having that come up as a discussion and see if we would cover half of what they've spent.
Well, I agree with you that it's sometimes appropriate to revisit issues that seem to have been previously discussed. And I agree with you that we should. So, yes. And I have one little question. So the money, I guess like $38,000 that was in a bank account that was used to buy this, how was that money generally replenished? Is it through tax dollars or?
Yeah, basically, it's tax
Can I
dollars.
speak to that?
Yeah,
Yeah, please do, yes.
Yes, what has happened over the years, unexpended balances in the fire department had rolled over and got up to the amount when we started in at the 1st of January with anticipated revenues from the county and the Forks in West Forks was going to bring it up to about 90,000. Those monies haven't all come in yet. We had about, in the high 40,000s in the checking account. They went ahead and bought this defibrillator, unbeknownst to me. The fire chief just went and asked one of the assessors, not in a meeting, so we all knew about it. First thing I saw of it, it was on the warrant for me to cut the check. It cleaned out, pretty near cleaned out our checking account. We've got no reserve funds right now. If that fire truck breaks down, or that pump goes to pieces, that pump's $50,000 to $60,000. I agree, that was a bad spending move. I hate to be here and ask to do anything to offset it. But on the other hand, I couldn't say too much to them. All of this time, these hours that go in here, those people donate. They get no pay for this. Last fall, they have an auxiliary account that they raised money for on their own time. We needed a trailer to haul the rescue snow sled and caboose that goes with it. They bought that for $16,000 out of their own funds. It's hard to go back and scold them for what they done. But yet, my concern is public safety. We don't have the funds there. And I hate to go back and tell West Forks they gotta come up with the money through taxation to offset that. West Forks built the fire department, bought the fire trucks and everything out of their own taxation. They've only asked the county and the Forks to share in annual expenses. And I hated to come down here and do this, but I hate to leave the public if something happens unprotected up there. In the unorganized territory share pretty near an equal amount in the calls. And that's why I'm here to do this. Thank you.
Well, if we revisited the resolution, would it be fair to request from the community benefit funds $12,307.25?
Just cut all the proposals in half, is it?
No, just the community TIF,
Excuse me.
the community benefit funds.
Excuse me, could I add something else here?
Sure.
I talked to Tim, and I don't know if it needs to be in a motion, but if it does pass here, I want it set up so this goes into a reserve fire department account that can only be spent by the authorization of the voters at a special or a regular town meeting, so that they can't do this again.
Makes sense.
We could put that in the motion if you want to revisit the motion with those.
Well, I'm in favor of revisiting the motion, which died for lack of a second, so.
Right.
So, are you making a new motion with new dollar figures in it? It's that,
It was Sid made the motion.
Parliamentary-wise, I believe we're past that in the, in the agenda. We're at miscellaneous discussion, and my discussion was to bring it up at another time. I'm not sure.
We could bring it up at the,
you've got
on the next.
military experience than I do, but can we just make a motion to just go back there and revisit it now, where we have a consensus?
Well, I haven't had my miscellaneous discussion yet.
I'm in favor of that, as I'm fond of saying. Whatever we want.
I think it's outside the rule, I don't think we can go there, as you're saying.
What rule are you talking about?
Yeah,
We've got our rules here.
Yeah, we're commissioners, we can do anything we want.
We represent the people, and there's a consensus here that we should, the motion only died for lack of a second. Lloyd's given his time to come down here today. It seems like appropriate time. We're having a discussion about it. Why not vote on it? What is?
Mr. Chair, your assessment?
Rule from the chair.
I did bring up the possibility of revisiting this resolution. So I truly think that we could. Patrick?
Lloyd was talking about stipulation about having an approval for spending.
Right.
The county could always set aside and leave on the county's books these funds, in which would require the commissioners to actually meet with the town officials to approve the use of those funds. If you want to go to the process.
I don't necessarily.
Stipulation.
I don't necessarily want to create more bureaucracy because of what happened.
I think my understanding of what Lloyd's saying is that the stipulation would be town meeting approval.
Yeah.
Not just the, not just 2 out of the 3 assessors, town meeting.
Yeah, a full town meeting of the voters, not,
Yeah, they'll have a special meeting if something drastic happens. That would get everything.
You're gonna have it
They're gonna
down
show up
somewhere.
their stuff.
we've already had one.
We'll do it again.
Let's hope not.
We don't need to.
And it's already been paid for, so what I hear from you, Joel, is that to make it 50-50 with TIF and community benefit.
Or whatever, no, not necessarily 50-50. So my proposal was in a normal situation, right, we're looking for a 50-50 buy-in. So if it's a snow sled drag, right, we want them to kick in at least 50% for us to give it. So that's what I was talking about. So whatever the total is of this, what was it, 37, 38, whatever.
38.
Cut that in half, do the math as far as the, what do we got here, a third and 2/3?
No, it's from the community benefit fund, it would be half of that.
Community benefit portion.
The benefit, community benefit was 2/3.
They didn't pay
Yeah.
the TIF.
25, not 12.
Oh, they
Right.
have it. I mean,
So we can do that.
If we cut it in half, that would make it 12.
matches.
50-50.
I mean, this makes sense to me.
12 was from,
That has nothing to do with it.
What you're talking about, if I understand,
When we do our grants, they're 50-50.
half of the 38.
After this,
What you're
that's
talking about.
50-50.
Right, yeah, we would cover half of the 38, and then they cover half of the 38.
Right. So where do you want that half to come from? TIF or community benefit?
Prorated, just as 1 to 2, just like
Prorated
that.
the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't think you can.
you, as the commissioners, have the authority, because even with the matching grant program and the matching grant committee and all that, with the community benefit funds, it clearly states the commissioners can do what they please with community benefit dollars outside of this grant program.
Just like we did with the towns after the flood day.
You did it with the flood damage, you did it with the spinning mill. So this would be a action that you can take with that community benefit dollars.
I believe the ratio to split up between the 2 accounts were proportionate to UT calls, is that correct?
Yes.
So we pulled heavy from UT, I think, is that the way it went? Or the other way around?
Well, you did it 1/3 UT and 2/3 community
That's
benefit.
how we fund their operation of the
And-
department. It's a third UT, and in the past, it's 2/3 through community benefit. And we fund 1/3 county, 1/3 West Forks, and 1/3 Lee Forks. So that was how it was divided into thirds, because there's 3 entities that fund the fire station.
No, and that's why I was thinking that because of the 50-50 in the community grants, that we would give them 50% of the community benefit funds, that would make it $12,307.25. That was how I was envisioning it. I don't know what you were thinking.
I was thinking substantially simpler than that, just reduce what we have down by 50% in the total, in the way that it's already, proposed to be allocated, or from the funds it's proposed to be allocated.
So you're saying West Forks will fund 50%, we'll reimburse 50%.
We would reimburse 50% now.
And then it's up to us how to split, how much comes from TIF and how much comes from community benefit.
Right, which I think you had, what, a third and two-thirds?
Yeah, it was a third.
Yeah.
I think I got it. I think, hopefully, Tim, check these numbers, but I would make, here's the motion I would make. That we approve $6,403.62 from TIF funds and $12,807.24 from community benefit funds to reimburse the town of West Forks, fire and rescue for the purchase of the defibrillator, with such funds to go into, help me Lloyd, it's going to go into a special account?
Yes.
What is the account? The equipment?
Fire Department Reserve Account.
With such funds to go into the West Forks Fire Department Reserve Account,
Yep.
and only to be dispersed or spent
Town meeting.
with town approval, town meeting.
Town meeting approval, yeah.
I hope I have those numbers right. That's my motion.
So, second.
You're within some change, so we'll get it.
Any discussion?
We can
We'll get the professionals on it.
But the idea is, we keep the ratio
The same.
the same, but we split it
Third, yep. Divide the total.
in half and let the town deal with the other half.
Yep. So essentially, what you're giving them is $19,276 and change.
Give them half of what they asked for.
Yeah. With the expectation that they're gonna match it, just like we've held other people to a similar standard.
Any further discussion? All in favor? We're good?
Thank you.
Thank you. Slip, you said you had a miscellaneous discussion.
We just took care of it.
Okay.
Oh, you were on that one?
John, did you have something?
No, I have nothing to say.
And Scott? I do have something. I just wanted to bring up the fact that the Maine International Film Festival is, one of their films is called Maine Documentary Shorts, and that's playing Friday, July 19th at 4 p.m., and again on Saturday, July 20th at 7 p.m. And the reason I bring it up is it has, in these segments, it's got one segment called The Comeback Mill, which is on the Madison Mill, in case anybody's interested in seeing that movie, that little short. And the other segment is called Sludge, a PFAS uprising, and that's on the PFAS. So if you're interested in those documentaries, they will be shown in Waterville in July at the Maine International Film Festival.
Thank you.
Sounds like date night.
Okay, now we will recess to execute documents.
Ask your wife.
Roy, good to see you.
It's an insurance policy, right? And then, of course, if something does break, with the community benefit process that we have now,
This is like one by statute has to go to the DA's office.
you won't have to drive down.
We'd like to continue that conversation.
Unextended balance is
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Here's what.
I will resend it.
It's like no protonics. Don't you do that a lot in the legislature?
What's that?
No protonics.
I don't know what that is. Is that English?
That's Latin.
Yeah, well, yeah. They didn't teach Latin in high school.
You didn't?
No.
Yeah, we
Get out of here.
gotta make sure we get that.
You haven't used a Latin?
That's exactly.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely sick.
that's why you made so much more money than me. It was a one-year course, but.
I did stay back.
You're gonna get some matching funds, you can get yourself a Z.
Latin and a good French.
Why, if I put in a
I speak a little
fund
French, I
request
do
for the
Latin.
commission to
Not much.
approve it,
As long as it's usable on that stretch.
I'm pretty sure that.
if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna give one of those
I'm not keeping labor contracts.
120 inch.
Golf courses, yeah.
Mine go through the shredder and become compost.
Now that, the business is over, I have a real.
When Robert recesses, he really recesses.
Then watch it, camera's still on.
True.
Just,
Yeah, I gotta be kidding. Oh, let's go. Actually, I had somebody in Franklin.
Is that the one we initial?
Hey, what's your thing?
So-
County meetings and you want me to pass
This one
along.
is what you signed
To
on.
Tim, which I did. Hey, you guys do a really good job.
Only
Some of the other ones.
Scott and.
If you work for 20 years, you get.
So I thought just the people who are getting it signed it.
So all of them should get mad.
That's go to the DA's office, it's crazy.
so.
We always just
So
initial.
it just has to go to.
You get 7, 15 pages.
This is, you sign it, it's just a.
Oh, my.
Mileage.
Mileage.
How about that Maine work ethic we keep hearing about?
Well, hey, it's European socialism.
These are all stuff for a year.
This is just for you, this is, you're the chair for the Madison contract.
Oh, yeah.
Don't take.
And then this is your mileage form to sign, and there's, you've already signed this one.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Oh, yeah.
You agree with that, Pat? Am I crazy with that?
What do you mean by both?
Well, let's say you're kind of a workaholic, you work up with it, like, I don't know, these are not much vacation parent. Let's say you've been working this whole last summer, Robert, and you're happy, I'm, 1 week's all I need, I go to People Pines with my boyfriend, that's good for me, that's all I'm taking. I'll just take the other 7 weeks I'm entitled to, and I'll just stack them. But there's a limit on how much you can stack.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I think we just said horse cash.
120.
120?
3 weeks.
So if you don't use, so if you're a long-time employee, you typically don't make up that one time you get, it is. I guess it's.
Chip's working on everything.
So I had this,
Scott's doing
This one's
it.
Make sure people are refreshed.
well, you want to encourage.
You deal with him day in, day out, and you want to be refreshed.
It's a thing, man.
So I was working on this job, it was actually Flagstaff.
Well, there's so many weed shops between here and Madison.
That's
That refreshing.
Around a little bit better than that, man.
Guess.
Here's that for you, Joe.
More than me, all day.
Then spend the 12 days.
Oh, really?
Lloyd's stuff. Yeah. It's money,
Mileage.
it's money.
Oh, I gotta sign for this guy's mind.
2.5 hour walk a day. And 5 days of finish. Hour and a half trip. You know, keeps me mentally safe.
Oh, really? Who's monitoring that? I do standards,
This one.
Yeah.
I was working on this construction.
Getting us trained.
Years ago, Joel, I was working on this construction crew who were in the woods. We're building a Flagstaff lot, actually. We stayed up in the woods.
Thought you were building the east-west railroad.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But anyway, so the big issue was whether we're gonna get Labor Day as a paid holiday. And there's like 6 of us, and I was like the low man of the totem pole. And so the guys that were running it said, well, we've been thinking about this, and we have the money that we would pay all of you for working that day, which is like, I don't know, it was $74, 1970, so I don't know, say $500, whatever it was. And they said, now you're all not going to be here, you're not going to do anything. Do you want to split this 50-50, everyone get an equal share for not doing any work on this day? Or do you think the higher paid people should get more of this money than the lower paid people? So that was the discussion. And I gotta tell you, it got really ugly pretty fast. I can't remember what we did, but it was,